Okay, so let's keep talking about this series we're doing, Lise, on the OG love languages and some of the new love styles.
Okay, we're on gifts, financial.
Oh, gifts are close and dear to my heart. So gifts are one of my love languages, and I feel like it's like often looked down upon as a love language by people because they're like, oh, that's so material. Like really you feel loved because someone gets you a gift. But here's the thing. Here's why it is one of mine and why it's important to me. Because to me, it's like your partner has actually put thought into like what you would really love, what would really make you feel joy. And whether that's like a planned thing and then they get you that thing, or it's like an in the moment thing where like you're walking by a store and you're like, oh, that scarf, like, oh, Lindsay would have loved that scarf. It's her favorite color and it has this pattern that she's been looking for everywhere. It's like that thought in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm. And some people just love getting gifts.
Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah, so if that's you, and you feel delighted and loved and surprised and overjoyed when somebody hands you that beautifully wrapped package and you can't wait to open it, and that's you, then chances are this is your love language. Yeah. No shame.
Own it.
Yeah, own it. No shame in that.
Yeah.
And then the new love styles have introduced like a financial aspect to it, which I really love. It sort of gives it a little bit more depth. So when we think of this in terms of whether this is your love language, it's like, is money and how you spend your money individually and collectively in your partnership important to you? So, like, do you love talking spreadsheets and budgets and planning spend your money? Do you love it when your partner comes to you and says, like, oh, I've looked at our finances and we're going to have, we're going to be able to afford this vacation this year but not this one? Or like, does that get you going? Then chances are, then this is one of the love languages that is the top of your list.
Yeah. I love that new introduction of all the finance stuff to it too.
It's important, right? It's one of the biggest things that couples fight about.
It totally is, yeah. And I think like all of this can be important to you and it can still not be your love language. Mm-hmm. But let's say like you see your partner and, they're buying around for, the whole table after work drinks and you're like, oh, that just like melts my heart because it's just showing this like huge generosity with our finances and our resources. And I love that. Then that's probably your love language, right? But equally, let's say they don't do things like that. That can also turn you on because that frugality can also be something that really means a lot to you.
Right. That's so true. Yeah. So you can either love it that they're savers or love it that they're generous with their finances and spending.
Yeah.
Yeah. And having these conversations like is really important, right? Because I think that's where often couples can go into struggle with their finances and spending is when they don't have these conversations. And if you know it's important to your partner, it's their love language, then this can be fun for you to talk about.
Totally. Yeah. Then you can find a spot for like considerations about, what would make my partner happy when you're making those budgets, those spreadsheets.
Sounds like my worst nightmare. It's an important one.
Yes. So let's wrap up our series on love languages and love styles with the last one that we haven't talked about here. Which is your favorite, Lise?
Of course, physical touch. All things physical.
Yeah.
And traditionally, I think when people think of physical touch, they think just about sex. So how important is sex to you or to your partner that makes this their love language? And I think it's important to note that physical touch is not just about the end game. It's not just about the big O. It's not just about sex. Right? Physical touch is about all of the small ways that we physically connect with our partners throughout the day and throughout our lives. And, not only do we know that this is like a really important part for our physiology and our mental health and our physical health, For some people, it's the difference between like whether you're roommates with your partner and have a really close friendship with them, or whether it's a romantic relationship. For some people, it's that important.
Yes, it's how they feel loved. It's the only way their love tank is filled. And like you said, it's not just sex, it's holding hands, it's kissing, it's hugging, it's cuddling, it's that ass slap on the way by in the hallway, right? Like, it's all the ways you can touch.
Yeah, and it's doing it frequently. One thing that what you just said sparked something for me, Lindsay. If it's the only way, that you want to be loved by your partner, that actually can create tension in a relationship because it puts pressure on the partner to be physical with their partner. And as you talked about, like, you have a love language, don't touch me, like, so it can be something that can create some tension in a relationship if one person has this as like a really important love language for them and the other person just doesn't.
Yes, and we see that a lot in our client base. And you know what? We have done a whole other YouTube video on mismatched sexual desire. So if that's you, we want you to go check that out, and we'll pop that link down in the show notes. So earlier I joked about how my love language was like not touching me, right? And really what it is when I joke about that is that, like, just know when I want to be touched and when I don't want to be touched. And not everyone wants to be touched all the time. But one thing we hear from clients all the time, Lise, is that they do want physical touch, but they can't just go from like 0 to 90.
Yes, we hear that all the time. Like, you haven't talked to me, we haven't connected all day, but then we get into bed and you're expecting sex.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's important to know that, like, there needs to be a slow burn and a slow build to that physical touch. That's very important for a lot of couples. And most of us don't have that spontaneous desire. It is more of a responsive desire. So it takes like little moments throughout the day that build up to wanting to have that physical response, right? And so, so it's important to know that it's like those little moments throughout the day that build up that desire for both people.
Right. Okay. So, Lise, if let's say we're in a relationship together and your love language is physical touch, but it's not one of mine. So talking about like responsive or spontaneous desire, like, what would be your tips for that couple?
Yeah, then I would say that it's important to offer an opportunity for us to be close physically without any expectations of how it's going to end.
Okay.
Because I think for the person who doesn't have that as their love language, they don't even want their partner to hold their hand or to hug them or to kiss them because they're afraid that, like, if I do this, I have to go all the way. And so it puts like a break on it for them.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like the openness to talk about it and communicate about it, of course, and also just the invitation to have a physical connection that doesn't have to go anywhere, that doesn't have to lead anywhere. And it takes the pressure off.
I love that. Because really, bottom line of this love language, physical touch, tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think a big part of it for a lot of people who have physical touch as their love language is that really they just want to feel like attractive to their partner. They want to know that their partner is attracted to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And that's a great way to show that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.